Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the August monthly meeting of the school board to order. First item is we'd like to say the pledge of allegiance, that all would stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Toby, would you mind doing the roll call, please? Here.
Peter Turk.
Here.
Barry Schmaling.
Here.
Marlo Brown.
Here.
Taylor Washoe.
Here.
Kevin Burke.
Here.
Roseanne Kahn. Here. And Susan Kessler. Here. Thank you.
We're going to review the minutes of the previous meeting, and I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the July 12th meeting. So moved.
I believe we approved the minutes of the last meeting. If you can tell, say outside.
That's okay. A motion is made and seconded. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, please. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, the minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is our communications. And before we start, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We're really appreciative of the public taking interest in school district business. And we're looking forward to any input. We're your elected representatives, and we want to hear from folks when on any issue involving the school district. So again, thank you and welcome tonight. I want to emphasize, I did this last month, but I think it's, and some of you were here last month, but bear with me again, I'm going to repeat this. This item on the agenda is your one chance at tonight's meeting to speak to the board. The rest of the meeting will be, you're welcome to stay, obviously, and we'd love to have you stay. But it's board business where the public is asked not, or it is not allowed to speak during our meeting. But during this time, we'd ask you to speak. We put out a list of guidelines and rules we'd ask people to follow. And it comes from our policies. And I want to highlight a couple of those things just so that there's no misunderstandings tonight and things go well during our public comment section. Everyone is allowed 3 minutes to speak during the public comment section. And what we did last month, which I think worked really well, Barry Schmaling here raises his hand when you get to about 20 seconds left to go. So when you're speaking, you know it's time to wrap up. No participant can speak more than once during the meeting. We ask you to stand, and I believe we have microphones, so when you call your name, or I'll call your name, we have a sign-up sheet here. Please come to the microphone. You're asked to state your name, address. If you have a group affiliation, please state that, and your topic. And though, again, that all comes from our board policies. It's not something I'm asking for. Please direct all your public comments to the board. So in other words, don't speak to the audience. We had an issue with that in July, and I'd like to make this meeting run better that way. The board values your opinion greatly, but we aren't going to directly respond to you tonight. We'll take time to consider that, and it may be items for future agenda items. I'm responsible as the board president for running the meeting, and I want to make sure things go smoothly. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard. So I will not interrupt you unnecessarily, but if items or if your statements become too long, if they're personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant, I will interrupt you and give you a warning and hopefully not terminate you. That would be the next step. Terminate your right to speak. That would be the next step. Things went really well in July, and I'm hoping we'll have a repeat of that tonight. The whole portion of this meeting with public comment is limited to 1 hour, unless the board votes to extend it. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that also. And then again, this went really well in July, but we're asking that demonstrations during public comments are not allowed, that we don't clap, certainly don't boo, but that we're respectful to all speakers. And again, I was really proud of our community in July. We had a wonderful public comment section without any of that, and I think it went really well. So without further ado, I guess we can start the citizen comment section of our meeting. First speaker up here is Adrian Nolte. Want to come forward? It is. It didn't work. It's on though, Adrian. I can't quite hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, perfect.
Hi, guys. Good evening. Right. I'm very nervous. Rather not be talking about this publicly, but I am a sexual assault and rape survivor. I cannot wear a mask due to being traumatized as a child by sexual abuse. Until you have had someone hold their hand over your mouth while doing horrible things to you, there is no imagining the hell even thinking about anything covering your mouth and nose can cause. Did you ever pull a blanket over your head as a child to hide from a monster or just pretend you're in a fort? I didn't. Because having anything over my head made me feel like I was going to throw up from the flashbacks it caused. Why am I telling you this? Well, because statistics show that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18. In our school district, that means we have approximately 390 girls and 260 boys who are sexual assault survivors. These students have the potential to be extremely traumatized by a mask. Of course, not everyone is going to have the same reaction to a mask, but if BASD is committed to compassion, as stated on your website, then it would make sense to take into account the mental trauma that could be caused to sexual assault survivors by mask wearing. One of the first things that a sexual assault counselor will tell you is that taking control of your body is paramount to the healing process. How can one heal if you do not have control over your body? If the school board is going to force these kids to cover their mouths and noses, I shiver at the thought of the potential trauma caused to them. I would implore you to consider that since COVID started, we've had around 390 cases in the entire school district. And I believe this includes teachers and staff. While coming up in the fall, you will have approximately 650 survivors walking your hallways. Will you allow them the control over their own bodies or potentially traumatize them all over again? I speak for myself and my family when I say that our 3 kids who are in the district will not be enrolled in BASD schools this fall if masks are required. Where there is risk, there must be choice. And I would go even further and say that in a free democratic republic country, you owe the freedom of choice to families. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your courage and sharing that. Bruce Kuda.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you. My name is Bruce Kuda. I live at 7621 Plainview. I've been a Burlington resident for 35 years. I have a son that's gone through the system and 3 grandchildren in the system right now. Part of my professional resume is that I've worked for 12 years as a counselor and mentor to homeless men in both the Pacific Garden Mission in Chicago and the Milwaukee Rescue Mission in Milwaukee. And the root cause of most of the issues with these men is poor upbringing or miseducation. There's 2 things I'd like to address. First, masks. We know, obviously, that Dr. Fauci and the CNC are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They don't know what they're doing. They keep flip-flopping what they think is the best thing to do. Credible scientists have shown that children are almost immune to the COVID. If the vaccines work, teachers should not be concerned about it. All mandatory masking does is instill a sense of lingering social paranoia in children. When a kid comes in 5 years old, he has to wear a mask, otherwise he's gonna die. This kid grows up scared. The second thing I'd like to address is CRT and all the variants of it. Basically, what I know from my experience working with men is this will not make a plain, equal playing field for the children. The children that are non-Caucasian will get the impression that somehow they cannot compete. And the white kids will get the impression that somehow they are better than others and they have to dial back. Both of these attitudes are totally incorrect. The school board has no business addressing this type of moral issue. It's up to the parents and the churches for children to teach children how to behave and how to have respect for each other. My son is an adopted son, he's a Korean, and we taught him how to respect other people and what type of respect to expect. And that's what parents should do. The school board has no business in its social engineering. Both of these things are small small cogs on a larger wheel. The larger wheel includes immigration and all those other social issues, which are basically designed to bring down the United States as we know it. So I beg that you folks will consider the kids as adults so they don't end up with the mission. Thank you.
Praise the Lord.
Next up, Carl Cecilia. Doesn't sound like it's going to be. No? Yeah. Okay, great. Carl Cecilia.
I live at 49 Echo Drive here in Burlington. I wanted to swing back to last month's meeting a little bit. Right prior to the meeting, I sent all the members of the board, a letter, and I'm suggesting that in light of the negative report the district received on racism, that we look at installing camera cams. Before I sent the letter, I talked to some people that I know that were on the board of UW regions, and they thought it was a good idea. They said it wasn't I wasn't a quack. Looking at what our police officers have to go through, making split-second decisions, life and death, they're being recorded. I think if we're going to attack racism in this school district, we need to have a better handle on what's going on, and what better way than that. I realize there'd be security concerns, but I think all of those can easily be overcome. So that's basically what I know what I wanted to say. What happens to, like when I send a letter, or anybody sends a letter, what's the follow-up on it?
Again, we're not going to address you. This is just a chance for you to make comments.
Okay, I'd like to know at some point what the follow-up is. I haven't heard from anybody, and granted, I sent it very close to the last meeting, so I expect it to be a topic at that point. But, so that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Ron, and I'm struggling with your penmanship, but Holda? Washington Avenue? Oh, thank you. I got it right.
Yes. Correct.
Apologies with the comment about your penmanship.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So I don't have much to say, but I just wanted to say that I agree with the first gentleman that spoke, that kids, generally aren't affected by COVID as adults and older at-risk people are. And I just wanted to plead to the board that, we expect as the school board, that you're representing us and you're here to support us in and make sure that our rights are not, violated or trampled on. And I just wanted to say that, masks are not good for kids. It's not good for their mental health. It's not good for their physical health. And I would say to you that we should not comply with the mask mandate. And I ask that every parent out there, it's our duty to stand up and say, no, we will not comply. So that's all I really wanted to say. I just encourage everybody to really stand behind and fight this. Thank you.
Again, I'm having a challenge with the hand right here. Susan Hurnan, and thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Hernandez-Love. I live over at Christine Court. My son is going into 8th grade here, and I'm here to speak to you about the possible mask mandate. I realized that last year, nobody really knew what was going on. Everyone was terrified. But the more research that's done, it has shown that there's not been a single case that's been seen of children passing COVID to their teachers. Children, like the last gentleman said, even if they get COVID, they're not at high risk unless they're immunosuppressed or something like that. Normally those children aren't in the public school district. There are a lot of physical issues that come up with children wearing masks. And I know the powers that be say, yes, the increased carbon, CO2 is not going to actually hurt them. It is increased, but it's not going to hurt them. But if you go to the hospital and you have that same level of CO2, guess what? They're going to put you on oxygen. There are also psychological issues that happen. Like if you look at a horror movie, what happens about half those horror movies? People are wearing masks because it is scary psychologically for any of us because you can't see facial cues. The younger children, they're missing out on a ton because they can't see the facial cues of their teacher. That is a big part of their learning. Not to mention the rebreathing that causes mental issues. It causes stomach issues because the bacteria go down into your intestinal tract and it messes with your whole gut bacteria, and your gut bacteria is 90% of your immune system. Honestly, that is what they're finding. So that's kind of what I wanted to address there. And just the other last thing I wanted to say is with the masks they found, yes, the N95 masks are, they help a lot. The cloth masks that our kids are wearing, they honestly really don't help. And if they want, I'm getting ahead of myself. The cloth masks that the kids are wearing, unless they are taking precautions, washing their hands, putting them in, like the way the medical professionals do in a paper bag when they take them off, and putting them back on, washing them every night in hot water, there's not going to be any safety. In fact, the mask will actually cause more issues and the children will be infected with more germs because they're touching them, they're throwing them in their backpack. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, my kid's in 8th grade and he grew up with me teaching him the medical way to do stuff. And I know he's not doing that. I can't imagine small children are ever going to do that. And that's what I had to say today. Thank you for hearing me out.
Jennifer Thomas.
I'm Jennifer Conovis, 2810 Carter Road, Burlington. Good evening. As a new parent to the Burlington Area School District, I'm asking you to make sure that the masking policies are optional for our children this upcoming school year and beyond. We moved specifically given that one of my children is medically unable to wear a mask and was forced to remote schooling last year, in which he did not thrive. Imagine asking a speech-delayed child who you cannot understand to be put in a mask. It is essential that parents have the ability to make the best choices for their children. It's time to approach things as we did pre-pandemic, as COVID is not going away. The suggested guidelines are not laws. Fortunately, local control over our school is still in place. You have the power to shape school policy for our children and community. I urge you to think critically and listen to the concerns of your constituents. The emotional and educational needs are far more important to the health than the nearly zero risk COVID presents to younger elementary students. Complete control over a virus is not a control our school or political leaders can have. Stop participating in and feeding the charade that our children are the problem. Look at our local environment and please design the right school year despite extreme recommendations from our health organizations. The CDC also recommends that children only go out to recess when UV exposure is low, and that all children wear hats and sunglasses for recess. Do school boards mandate sun protection, or do schools send emails to simply recommend it? I'm sure you all know the answer to that question. Make the decision as a board. Guidance is guidance, and local leaders have been given their autonomy to direct as they see fit. A family can prove far easier and more evidently that their children have been harmed by masks and COVID restrictions in schools than they can prove that a child or family member got COVID from a school, and schools have been proven to be an unlikely source of spread. This is not your battle to fight, nor your protection to guarantee. We have far bigger risks in life and to spend little to no time thinking about those risks daily. It must be left to choice and comfort. Every owns family assessment to protect through vaccination and mask wearing is that family's own personal choice. I don't know who's vaccinated and who is not, nor should I have, nor I should ever be able to know this information. The only way to guide this school year is through offering choice and respecting everyone's choices and the large gray area we are in at the moment. Common ground is found in the middle, not in the extremes. In the middle. Choice and respect is the middle. There are too many reasons families might have chosen not to vaccinate their children, and too many reasons these children do not want or cannot sustain mask wearing on a daily basis during long hours in the school buildings. Your responsibility is to help create a positive and productive learning environment. All summer, people have been gathering together at stadiums, in restaurants, and in backyard barbecues without masks. Masking children this upcoming school year is not virtuous and it's not right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I want to make an announcement. We're not taking any more public comment requests tonight, so just, if we get more, at this point, we're not taking any more. Brian Fliss.
Good evening, I'm Brian Fliss, 32873 Davie Drive in Burlington. Forgive me, I didn't plan on speaking tonight. And, maybe after I say a few things, I'll still wish I didn't. But this weighs heavy on my heart. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, I'm honored to be standing before you. As elected officials, I know from firsthand knowledge that it's a very tough position to be in, to make tough decisions, to represent minorities and majorities. But as you go forward, I beg of you to have the courage to continue to show up, to continue to stand up and do what's right, not for one person, not for 5 people, but for the entire community. Now I speak to you not as an elected official. I'm speaking to you as a father of 3 that are in the Burlington School District. As you go forward and decide what to do with this next year, whether it be ESSER funds for the first example, please don't do anything with that that's going to be irresponsible to my children or discriminate against my children based upon the color of their skin, even if it feels right, like we're empowering one group, we're weakening another that may need the same tools for their education because they have learning disabilities. I've got one who has learning disabilities. I've got one that's a straight A student, never had a day in her life. I've got another one who's right in the middle. They all need the same help. And I agree with everybody that's saying they need to see the faces of the teachers. They need that smile. They need that pride, that interaction. The social interaction is just as important in the form of education as the books are. So as you're thinking about ESSER funds, please, again, I reiterate, please don't discriminate. White, black, old, young, don't discriminate against anyone. Do the responsible thing and represent everybody. I recently saw an email, and I'm not going to name names, But somebody told another school board member, stop emailing. I don't want to hear what you think. I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's divisive. Let's put all politics aside. Hopefully, your minds are not made up already. If I said, how do you decide on masks? I think, unfortunately, a lot of you have already decided. And also, I would hope that, I'll use Taylor as an example. Taylor, Marlon, you represent me. I hope you'll continue to do that and continue to push for what matters to me and my children as a father of 3 of Burlington.
Yeah, can I hold on for a second? Can we, in the beginning, it's not our policy, but we asked not to clap or cheer. So I'd like to.
Urging our fellow citizens, to not be compliant.
Again, I'm just gonna ask you, I'm not telling you what you have to do, but I'd like, the meeting goes better if we keep from the public demonstrations. Lisa Longoria is next. Lisa?
Hello, I have 4 kids in the Burlington School District. My oldest is in high school and my youngest is still in grammar school. So I decided not to put them back in the public school this year for the first time, even though my kids have been in the public school for quite a long time. Last year, I really cringed that I had to send them in with masks, and I thought it would be a couple weeks. I really didn't want to have to do that, but unfortunately, 2 of my kids have an IEP, and I really didn't feel equal to the task of trying to educate them at home. After what's happened over the last year, though, the fact that you even consider doing that again is really upsetting. I shudder to think of my kids being behind a mask all day long, 5 days a week. It's not healthy for them, psychologically or physically. And the other thing is having them home and then seeing what they're learning. When I had to do virtual, I was really, really surprised at how the curriculum has changed since I went to the Burlington High School. I feel like it's starting to reflect a certain agenda that I feel is very contrary to what I believe. I really don't approve of some of the things I've seen my kids having to learn in school. And I have had to tell my kids not to do certain assignments, and just said, I don't want you even going on the internet and researching that. I mean, from music class to science to English, I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I have pulled my kids all out of school this year, and I plan on homeschooling all of them. And I hope that you will start to consider keeping your politics to yourself and just teaching our kids math.
Wayne Swider. Can you say it again? I can't hear you.
409 Garfield Street.
And can you state your name?
Wayne Swider.
Okay.
I'm not sure where he already said a bunch of stuff. I just disagree with the mask thing. I don't think we need it. There's been plenty of review on that. I think you guys know that. There's some nonsense I heard going on about wearing a mask if you don't get a vaccine. I hope that's not in your agenda. The Director of Equity, that was something I don't think we need. It's kind of your job to do that. You need to pay somebody else to do your job.
Okay, hold on. Again, we're gonna have a hard time getting to hear speakers if we have interruptions. So let's let Mr. Swider speak.
We had some online issues. And it was hard for my daughter this past year to be online. She couldn't get answers to what she needed to know. I don't know if you're going to start doing that for some reason. If somebody gets COVID, you're going to have to do that. That's, it's hard on the kids. You get bad grades because of this. That's not a good thing. Well, pretty much, everybody else has already said it, I think you've heard it. We're not for the masks. I don't really need to say more, you guys know.
Next is Joshua Shimmick.
Hi guys, Josh Shermick, 27120 Plank, Dover Township. There you go. Okay, great. I just wanted to talk to you, first off, I love this class of 97. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the state of Wisconsin decision that found the district to be racist, I guess. And I just wanted to walk you through a little hypothetical. Now, this didn't happen to me, but it did happen to a friend of mine. He was walking late at night, one night, with a couple friends through a predominantly African-American community. This community was probably about 98% African-American, and they ended up getting jumped, assaulted by 3 men. Now, it would be easy, I guess, for someone to say, well, this happened to me. Everybody in this community must be bad and evil, right? Because they're all the same. Yet, the qualities that my education from this district, what it instilled in me, was that you don't look at or judge things in that fashion. And yet, that's exactly what the state of Wisconsin did here. They took a few isolated incidences from some problem students, and they used it to judge this entire district as being racist. And that is flat out wrong. And for this board to even consider complying with the state of Wisconsin orders without fighting it is disrespectful to every single taxpayer in this room and even those not here in this community.
Hold on, I'm gonna interrupt this. Excuse me, I'm gonna interrupt you.
Okay, as long as my time is preserved.
I appreciate you guys putting this thumbs up. I mean, we understand the support, but again, please refrain from interrupting the speaker, because we can't hear what he's saying to say.
Thank you. I was just going to say that I've watched the board now for several months discuss this position, this director of equity position, and the costs involved in it. And every single time it was brought up, what would our expectations be for this position? And every single time for months on end, not a single one of you, Marlo accepted because he wasn't on the board necessarily yet, but not a single one of you was able to come up with a single expectation every single time that was raised. If that doesn't tell you right there that it's completely unnecessary, it's superfluous, and it's a waste of taxpayer funds, what more would you guys need to prove that point? I mean, you guys have to stand up and fight for this community. I know that there's some people on the board that claim to have been elected because they were physically conservative. And they're saying right now that it's probably going to be cheaper to comply with the state of Wisconsin instead of fighting them. However, when you look at the cost involved, the legacy cost, and that person possibly having a budget to do whatever it is that they want to do, the cost is going to be far more expensive than fighting it now as opposed to compliance. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Chantel Tapp. I live at 516 Congress Street, and I'm proud to have the last name Tapp. If anybody has a problem with that in this room. I was initially gonna say something, I wrote something up, but I just feel like the majority of the people in this room support the fact that we don't support masks on our children. I have 3 children in this school district and a husband that teaches probably at this school. And it's disgusting to me that we're even talking about this. I don't think that it's even something you have the right to vote on. Children should not be in masks. There's tons of studies out there that say they should be. I also am a person that has worked through this entire COVID pandemic. I did not get to sit at home and collect a paycheck from the government in order to feed my family. And I can say that and also say that I've seen more people with COVID recover then I've seen more people die from COVID. And I work in the medical industry. So when it comes to masks, I ask that you listen to these parents and these community members and not muzzle their children for your fear. The kids should not have to take on a burden that you aren't willing to take on yourself. Unless you want to sit in a mask, breathing your disgusting breath for 8 hours a day, I would ask that you could reconsider even doing this to our children. And I also want to speak on behalf of a husband that I care about deeply that will be masked if you choose this. And that's not great for him either. It's not going to help his immune system or him to be able to stay at work and support his family. We've already tried to strip my husband of his position here. Let's not do that again. Thank you.
Right.
Hello. Jeff Tapp, 516 Congress Street. I want to start off with a question for all of you. Do you believe that cloth underwear can stop a fart? No, I'm serious. I'm serious. If the person sitting next to you right now, who's hopefully wearing underwear, if they just farted, would you smell it? Would the particles reach your nose? But a cloth mask can stop COVID-19 particles. Right. Tonight I want to provide you all with a perspective, one that is often left out of this picture, left out of the discussion. And we are the staff members employed within the Burlington Area School District. Yes, I am currently employed at EHS as a history teacher. I'm quite sure you all know who I am. Tonight what I want to spend my time speaking about is what rights do staff members have. Now, I know I'm not speaking on behalf of all staff members who don't think that, but there are definitely a very large percentage of us who do not wish to be forcibly masked back up, and I'm one. And I'm not going to stand here and present you with facts as to why or why not masks should or shouldn't be worn. Not doing it. So-called facts don't dictate my freedoms. But what I am here to present you with is the fact that I am a concerned community member who just so happens to work within the walls of one of the schools that you all set policy for. You see, your decision seems pretty simple. If someone has a fear of COVID and they believe that a mask or a vaccine will keep them safe, then they have the right to choose that. This is still America. And you all have, honestly, absolutely, and I mean this with respect, you have no right to choose this decision for us. Just like the current summer school policy, masks should remain optional. Nothing needs to be changed. I'm a history teacher. As I said, in this great country was founded on the idea that all of us are created equal, and that each of us is given inalienable rights, God-given rights, and that these rights cannot be taken away from us by a select group of members who believe that they're acting in the public's best interest, when in fact, what about my interests? You are elected representatives, derive your powers from the consent of the government, from all of us, from me, and you do not have my consent. That decision belongs to each individual person. I want you to remember that, period. And in closing, I want to stress something. Refusal to wear a mask that is proven to be ineffective against stopping the spread of a virus should never be a condition of employment, ever.
Please, clap.
One more thing.
We can't hear.
Please remember that if you're foolish enough to believe that a cloth mask can stop COVID-19 particles, well, remember the end of that. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. Lisa Kendall, you're fine.
Can we get a matter up too, so that we can get prepared to speak, and you know what I'm saying, move along?
Yeah.
It helps.
I'll run the meeting, but thank you.
Hi, Lisa Kendall, I live on Origin in Burlington. I currently have 4 students in Burlington. And Mr. Turk, I appreciate that you began the meeting by reminding all of us that you are our elected board members and that you represent our voice and represent what we want here in Burlington. And I'm asking strongly that the masks remain optional here. We are a small community in Burlington, and we have spent the summer together mask-free at our area festivals, at our churches, attending masses, going to the grocery stores together, going to restaurants and people's homes, and we've done that mask-free. Here at BHS and in our conference schools, our children have attended summer school safely, mask-free. Burlington High School has an incredible, Burlington School District has an incredible rec program. My children have taken part in that in several of the feeder schools and here at Burlington High School, mask-free. As we speak, the volleyball team is in the gym practicing without masks on. As a mother of 5 children, I take my responsibility as a parent very seriously, and I take their health to be one of the most important things that I'm to take care of and that I am to teach them about. So I make sure that I do all I can to boost my children's natural immunity and that they understand that their immunity is their responsibility to take care of. And I strongly believe that it's each person's personal responsibility to take care of our God-given bodies. I don't believe that this board should force my children or any other children in the district to wear an invasive covering over their faces. In addition to being a parent and seeing the detrimental effects that the masks have had on my 5 children, from my senior in high school down to my 3rd grader, I'm also a teacher. I've taught for 22 years. I'm a chemistry teacher. And this past year was devastating to watch those students, those high school students in their masks. It's difficult to speak about it and not get emotional. My students in my classrooms, in the hallways, no longer spoke to one another. They did not want to participate in classes. One of the biggest things that us teachers know is to have good relationships with our students. Now these students no longer talk to me, they no longer talk to each other. So that camaraderie was gone, the social aspect was gone, and most importantly, the joy in their daily education and lives was gone. And it was devastating to witness. The masks should not be mandatory.
Okay, yeah.
I know if this community was surveyed, the majority of us would feel the same.
And Melby, 2821 Circle Drive. Here we are again, having to discuss masks. And not just masks, but how the school district will respect the opinions and the rights of parents in the district. No one knows their children's needs better than their parents. Last year, with masks mandatory in VASD, we saw facial rashes, increased depression and anxiety, cases of bacterial pneumonia from mask wearing, and an overall deterioration of our kids' ability to learn. I can fully understand why. Imagine you're an already antsy teen in your last hour of the day. In mid-September, your classroom doesn't have air conditioning, and your teacher is droning on about Western civilization. It's difficult enough to pay attention without a mask. Now imagine having a hot, sweaty, smelly piece of cloth over your face that you've been breathing into for the last 7 hours of the day. I know my ability to engage in quality learning would be gone at this point. I know it's not that way for every student, I understand that. But for parents who know masks will inhibit learning for their children, we simply ask for choice to let their student learn the way they're used to learning, to be able to speak up in class and participate without the hindrance of a facial covering. Now that I've listed some of the risks masks pose to our children's physical and emotional health, as well as their quality of education, I will remind you that if you force masks, you force those risks and thus should carry liability associated. We don't want you to have to take that on. Where there is risk, there must be choice. We simply ask you to respect this idea. While we charge schools with the care of our children, I will remind you, a school's primary function is education. It is not a daycare, but a school. Last year, we saw so much focus being put on safety that our school's primary function failed. While I understand that there's a balance between safety and education, I believe masks hurt more than they help. I hope you recognize that too. Even Racine Unified School District is making masks optional. If there is any disagreement on this issue tonight, I encourage you to table the discussion until you have taken a survey of the parents in the district as like in the school district, so you have a good handle on what your community wants. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you to use common sense when reading any reports or findings from the equity and disciplinary audits. Don't be bullied or shamed into making radical changes, and please say no to hiring the unnecessary position of coordinator of culturally relevant practices and student engagement. Thank you.
County Road Jazz, Donald Vans. Give it a tap once, see if it works. There you go.
My name is Donald Voss. I live at County Road JS, just west of town.
Sorry for mispronouncing.
That's okay. First of all, I want to thank every one of you for serving on the school board. I've often wondered if I should be running so that I can make a difference. I'm fast learning that I'm better off in a better position than doing what I'm doing now. And speaking up.
Hang on. Can you guys hold on?
And speaking of the will of the people, okay? As you can see, I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of it. Okay? We do have rights. You work for us. I'm a taxpayer. I had 3 children go through the system. I'm also a grandfather of 7. What I'm not going to have is when I'm on my deathbed, Grandpa, what did you do? You understand? You folks don't have the right to infringe on our rights, as everybody else has said here. There's not much more to say. I had something all prepared, but the people have already spoken. Those rights were inalienable, given to us by our Maker. As a child, in the cold, licking his lips, I don't need to get into all this, but I'm gonna. That child can't refrain from licking his lips. Even if you give him chapstick, he's gonna continue to lick his lips until he's got red from here down to there. It's no different in a wet mask. Playing with it, he's gonna infect thousands of people, whatever. We need to use our heads, the common sense that God gave us, and start using critical thinking like I see out there on that board. Okay? You say you want to teach critical thinking, well, these children don't belong to you, they belong to us, given to us by God. They don't have that right. Understand that? Thank you very much for your time.
Rob Schroeder, 424 Woodlawn. I just want to say, I do want to say thanks to all of you for your continuing education, to be in a position to do this, to help the community. The question I have is, you've sought, I don't know what level of education. Why have you stopped thinking? Why have you stopped challenging things? Because according to the CDC website, this is a 99.8 plus survivable rate illness. Dr. Fauci has stated clearly, masks will not do anything to stop the virus. What else do you need? Seriously. Why are you out here trying to take away these children's rights to smile, to see their friend, laugh, to interact with an awesome teacher? That lady there, I don't know her, but I can tell she's a great teacher. Okay, I went to a great school long ago. But the thing is, these children they're normal. By stripping them of all this, people are talking about what happened. Children's suicide, adult suicide. I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose one of my 4 daughters. But I do know the desperate, I won't use the word, garbage that she went through from going from an A student to failing every single class. And I had to drag her up through that and tell her, go ahead, get up there and do it all. You're not looking at the simplicity of the mask. It causes acidosis of the blood, which causes the body system to start collapsing. Cancers are caused by acidosis, acid type in the body. All kinds of diseases come from recycling your own exhaust. So why do you want to do that to the children? If somebody is ignorant enough to feel that this mask might do something because some guy says that this is the way to do it today, but tomorrow it might change. Okay, I'm sorry, but we're getting into the stuff. If you study history, in the Muslim faith, they found out long ago that if you put a mask over people's face, they'll capitulate and they'll give in. Well, this is stuff.
Careful.
No, I'm saying.
Sir, your time's over now. You're headed down the road. Andy Roken? Oh, no worries. We're not going to force anyone to get up and speak. Don't worry. Stacy Coleman's next.
Hello, Stacy Coleman, 29340 Rocky Road, Burlington. Okay, so a lot of people have said a lot of what I was going to say, so I'm just going to touch on the things that I feel like were left out. I think many of us know that recently it came out, the FDA reported that the CPR tests failed. They failed. Okay, what are they, PCR? Is it PCR? Okay, sorry. They failed. Okay, so what did that tell us? It tells that they cannot tell the difference on when they're testing versus flu or COVID. Okay, so if we look at the death counts from 2018, 2019, 2020, the entire death count for the United States hasn't changed. In fact, I think 2020 went down from 2019. Okay, so let's really use some common sense like we've been talking about. God gave us instincts. Our bodies, our minds tell us when something's wrong. So I really encourage you guys to start trusting those instincts over what someone tells you to do. And that requires bravery. And I feel like this country, a lot of people are finding that place deep in their soul, that the place to speak up and speak out. Who wouldn't normally do it because it's uncomfortable. My knees are shaking, it's not fun. But we have to. We have to speak up for the kids who have been silenced all that last year because let's face it, the mask is a symbol to silence you. And our kids have no voice, so these kids come home to their families in tears, spilling out their guts, and parents felt hopeless. We're not going to tolerate, please, another year of torture and abuse on our children to attend a public education system. I also want to see, I just want to say, please no quarantines when someone gets the flu or calls in sick. Okay, there's no quarantining anymore. Okay. So that needs to stop. Don't tell people that they need to stay home and quarantine. This is enough. It's the flu. No 6 feet apart. Let these kids have a normal lunch hour and sit. If you're gonna talk about feelings, please consider it 18 and under feelings. I don't care about feelings of people who are an adult, who can handle their own emotional things and facts and things that come their way. They've learned how to deal with it. But let's get back to the kids. These kids need a voice, and that's why we're here, and the room is growing bigger, and it's only going to keep getting bigger. Science doesn't lie. Unfortunately, people do, and the CDC we can no longer listen to, or Fauci. So please be brave, have courage, and do what's morally right. That's what we're looking for. Principles that we can stand in family values. Please back us up, because that's why families are here. Thank you.
Tom Coleman.
Tom Coleman, 29340 Rocky Road, Burlington. I can't even believe we're here again for masks. I mean, did we not talk about this for the last 4 months enough? And all of a sudden, we're gonna go back to masking up? I mean, what if I held one of you down and put a mask on you for 8 hours? I mean, teachers, staff, they take breaks. Kids leave their room, these teachers, they take breaks. They get to go eat lunch with their friends and actually socialize. My son, the last day at school, went to go talk to one of his friends, 6 feet away with a mask on. Still was yelled at by the assistant vice principal, which is crazy. You guys have stripped my kid of a whole year of school already. You don't want to talk about an equity director. You don't even have enough money for kids with IEPs to teach them. But yeah, we need an equity director. We need an assistant vice principal. We need an assistant superintendent. Are you serious? We got 7 board members here. Why don't you do something? Have you walked around all summer with masks on? I don't see one of you with a mask on. Why should our kids?
Hold on, sir.
Go ahead.
You're bordering on being abusive now against our policies.
Hold on. Let's go over school handbook dress code policy.
Okay,
It
sir,
says.
you have a microphone. You don't have to yell into it. I can hear you. But
I just want to make sure everybody in the back can. Your school policy.
I want to hear what you have to say. Just let's take it down a little bit.
Your school policy says in your handbook, if it restricts a person from learning, they're not supposed to wear it. I read this thing last year. Oh no, we still gotta wear masks. This is ridiculous. Grow up and get a pair of balls.
Okay, hold on. We're trying to have a civilized conversation, and I want to hear from everybody. No. Please stop, sir.
We're all trying to be civil here. We all have no masks on.
I move for any public comment. Okay, motions have made and seconded to end public comments. Any comments by the board members?
No. We need to keep public comment going.
Motions are made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Hold on, we're not here to engage with you right now. Okay. Motions are made. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
No.
Nay. What does that mean? You want to end public? And what's that? Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on, before we get out of control here. Sir. I'd like to be able to continue the meeting, but we can only do it if we are able to have a organized, sir, ma'am, can you please be quiet? We'd like to be able to continue the meeting. We cannot do so though if we have, ma'am, can you sit down? We can't do so if we're gonna have just chaos. This is not working for us, and we're at that point right now. We voted we're gonna end public comments. We can have it next time. We're gonna continue on with our meeting, and if we can't continue on with our meeting, we will. I think it's time for us to, we're going to recess the meeting right now. You're a tyrant! Hey, you're a we're recessing the meeting. The meeting's in recess right now. Please, we're going to ask you to declare the